So the general physics questions, this is related to topic 1.5 forces. Complete this statement. You can annotate on the screen. You can also use a chat or a mic to answer the questions. Complete this statement by writing in the blank spaces. The moment of a force about a pivot is equals to dash multiplied by dash. How we calculate a moment? So moment is force multiplied by perpendicular distance from the pivot. Good. No need to erase. You can keep it. So it is force multiplied by perpendicular distance. The next question. Figure 3.1 shows a horizontal rod which is having a length of 2.4 meters and a weight of 160 Newton. The weight of a rod acts at the center and the rod is suspended by two vertical ropes X and Y. State the name given to the point at which the weight of a rod acts. What we call that point? We call that as center of a gravity or center of mass. So center of gravity or center of mass is the point. Calculate the mass of the rod. How to work out the mass of the rod? We have the weight. So whenever you're solving a question, always use a formula that mass is weight divided by gravity. So weight is 160 and the gravity you will take as 9.8. Old past papers like before 2023, you will find gravity values are taken as 10, but you will take as 9.8 when you're solving. So the answer was 16 point. No, it cannot be 116.4 because it is divided by, like if it was 10, it will be 16. So it is 16.3. Yeah. Then the rod is in equilibrium. Use the data from the figure and explain why. First thing, as object is in equilibrium, this I will solve. So when something is in equilibrium, what are the conditions of equilibrium? There will be no resultant force and no resultant turning effect. So first we'll write conditions. First, for example, first we write there will be no resultant force. So then we have to show that how there is, when object is in equilibrium, no resultant force. So how no resultant force? The total upward force must be equals to total downward force. So total upward force is 80 plus 80, which is 160, and the total downward force is 160. So that will score 2 marks. The second mark is no resultant moment, or you can say the clockwise moment is equals to anti-clockwise moment. No resultant moment or the clockwise and anti-clockwise moments are equal. So then you have to take a pivot. Like at this one, X and Y are there. So no resultant moment about a pivot. So which point you want to take a pivot, it's up to you. You can take X as a pivot, you can take Y as a pivot. Example, I'm taking X as a pivot. So if X is my pivot, then this 160 will cause a clockwise rotation and this 80 will cause an anti-clockwise. How much is the moment caused by the clockwise moment will be? So it will be 160, the force multiplied by distance from the pivot. So the weight is acting at the center as it's a uniform rod. So it will be 160 multiplied by 1.2. And what about the anti-clockwise moment? So anti-clockwise moment is 80 and the distance from the pivot is 2.4. So 160 into 1.2. So 160 multiplied by 1.2 will be equals to 80 multiplied. So 192 on the left and 192 on the right. So means the second condition is also fulfilled. So it's up to you. You can take a pivot X or you can take a pivot Y. You will get the same results. But when you take pivot, for example, if you are taking pivot as Y, so with reference to the Y, now the weight will cause an anti-clockwise rotation and this 80 will cause a clockwise. Because as we change the position of the pivot, the turning effects with reference to pivot will change. So if the pivot is rope Y, we take a why we did not consider this 80 Newton to cause any turning effect, because it is acting on the pivot. No, we cannot take the center of the mass of the pivot because there is no support there. Because pivot is a point where there should be a support so that object can easy or freely rotate. If there was, like example, any pin was there or any support was there, then I will take a pivot at the center. But right now, because there is no support at the center, so I cannot take center as a pivot. If any nail is there in the question, yes, I will take that as a pivot. Is it clear? Okay. Then we have the next question. Define acceleration. You can annotate on the screen to define an acceleration. The acceleration is what? It is a rate of change in speed or increase in speed in a unit time. So rate of change in velocity. Yeah, velocity is the right term because acceleration is related whenever even speed changes. Speed does not change, but object is accelerating when object move in a circular path. This is a distance time graph. When we have a distance time graph, remember the distance time graph, the slope represents the speed. So describe what happened from 0 to 15, 15 to 30, and 30 to 40. So 0 to 15, what happened to the slope? So increasing. If the slope is increasing, it means the speed is increasing. But from 15 to 30, what happened to the slope? It is constant. So the speed is constant. It's not accelerating. And then from 15 to 40, 30 to 40, what happened to the slope? The slope is decreasing. So here the speed was constant and here the speed is decreasing. The speed, or you can say deceleration. The next part, we need average speed. How to get the average speed? Average speed is the total distance over total time. So you will draw a line for the total distance, which is 300, and the total time for the journey is for 40 seconds. So 300 divided by 40. So what's the answer? It will be 7.5 and the unit will be meter per second. The next part, we need the maximum speed. First, you have to identify which region it will have a max, because speed is increasing. The region where it is much like steeper has a maximum gradient or a slope, that region is have maximum speed. Here the speed was increasing and then it has a constant speed and then the speed is decreasing. So which region we have a maximum speed? The one region where we have a maximum gradient. So this region, that's right. In this region, we have a maximum slope. So it will have a maximum speed. So you can work out how much distance it covered in this time interval, or you can find the gradient by using a formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You can use that, or there's also another formula. You can use like how much distance it's covered in this interval and what is the time taken. So if we compare the distance covered, like this was 70 to 250. So 250 minus 70, it will be 180 meters. And the time interval from 15 to 30, so that is 15 seconds. So it will be 180 meters divided by 15 seconds. That will give us the maximum speed of this. So 12 meter per second. And you can also use a gradient, like you will use a formula y2. This will be y2, this will be y1, this will be x1, and this will be x2, and substitute, you will get the same answer. So whenever they ask for if a distance time graph, if they ask for the maximum speed, then what you have to do, you have to find a region where the slope is maximum, because maximum speed means the region where it has a maximum gradient or a slope. So these are the questions from the block one, the general physics.